Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're running just a bit behind because of our workshop. Our first order of business this afternoon is our CRA board meeting, which is the Community Redevelopment Agency. It's a very short agenda, and we'll move forward with that. So at this time, I'd like to call the CRA board meeting to order. Item number 2 is the approval of the meeting minutes from September 11th, 2017.
Move approval.
Second.
There has been a motion for approval and a second. Is there any discussion of the September 11th minutes by any member of the board? Any questions? Any questions from the public on the September 11th minutes? There are none. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
One question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
For people online, we need to make sure we capture everything you're saying.
Thank you.
I just had no idea as to what the content of that was, is all.
Oh, the Community Redevelopment Agency, that is this board, and we are separate. We're that board, but we're also the City Commission. And that item is just the minutes from our September 11th meeting. Those minutes are online. I actually do have a hard copy of them if you would like to see them, but you would just be asking questions about those minutes.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering if it had anything to do with the reason I'm here tonight, which is the medical marijuana thing.
No, that's actually not anything to do with that, but there'll be a time in the meeting a little later on if you'd like to speak, okay?
I apologize for interrupting.
Nope, there's no problem. Okay, Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Barnes. Aye. Commissioner Tender.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Yes.
Commissioner Friend.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so the minutes are approved. Item number 3 will be resolution number 2017-09-02, adopting a final Community Redevelopment Agency budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. Mr. White, do you have that resolution that you can read for us, please? Not yet.
Resolution number 2017-09-02, a resolution adopting a final budget for the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency for the fiscal year 2017-2018 and appropriating for the purposes specified redevelopment trust funds and amounts specified for disbursement according to said budget for the fiscal year 2017-2018.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion to adopt resolution as read by Mr. White?
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board regarding the agency budget for the fiscal year 2017-2018? Any questions or comments from the public regarding this budget? Yes, Mr. White. Excuse me, Mr. Walker. Sorry.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. As a citizen, referencing the budget, page 77, CRA, you will notice portions of it dealing with Sheffield Park and Kane Park in the CRA budget. Correct?
Would you repeat your question, please, Mr. Walker?
You will notice on the pages, excuse me, 80, page 80, I'm sorry, I apologize. Page 80, under capital outlay for the CRA budget, you will notice the capital outlay projects are Sheffield Master Plan, Phase 2, Courtyard, Kane Griffin Park improvements, and certain money allotted to it. My impression, and what I've been told, is that these two parks belong to Leisure Services. They're under the control of Leisure Services, and they appear in the comprehensive plan. According to directions to the CRA, that anything in the comprehensive plan cannot be taken care of by the CRA. It was explained to me that if it's in the comprehensive plan and hasn't been used for 3 years, then it can be brought into it. I don't know, because we've been working on the Sheffield Park for a long time. If I'm incorrect, fine. If I'm not, then these should be removed from the budget of the CRA. Next subject. In the meeting that we had in the workshop,
Could I let our CRA director address the question? Would that, is that, I mean, I think he could do a better answer than I can do for it. I mean, did you want an answer to the question? I'm assuming you asked a question.
you can answer the question, but whether I believe it or not.
Okay, well, you're asking a question, so I wanted to give you an answer. Mr. John, and did you finish asking your question?
What?
Did you finish asking the question? Were you?
That portion, yes.
Okay, and so you still have time left. Go ahead, Mr. John Kate.
Thank you, Mayor. The Lynn Haven Comprehensive Plan calls for improvements for Porter Park. Sheffield Park and King Griffin Park is not listed, number one. Number two, park improvements are specifically mentioned in the CRA plan, which is my guideline in terms of project improvements or project money spending on CRA projects.
Okay, thank you so much.
There was a movie once, and the question was asked, and a statement was made, and then somebody stood up and says, "That's not exactly true." Sheffield Park is in the comprehensive plan. It was in the comprehensive plan with the previous city managers a long time ago, when this community sat in many deliberations over the Sheffield Park.
Mr. Walker, when I became mayor almost 2.5 years ago, we addressed Sheffield Park. We had 3 public hearings. We had the community here. We had a table. We had notes. Everybody had input, and we reached consensus not only as a board but as a community on what they wanted that park to be. And so I don't feel I don't think we've done anything astray there. I feel like the entire community had input on that park.
I didn't say that. That's not my question.
Okay, well, I'm
My
misunderstanding.
question is, if it's in the comprehensive plan, we can't address it. Porter Park is in the comprehensive plan. Is the Kane Park in there? Yes. Sheffield Park was brought up a long time ago under the CRA, and it was not discussed as a CRA project. It was a combination project where everybody met. I don't want to belabor that fact.
Okay.
Just that, let me say this, I disagree.
Okay.
Next subject, on the budget for the city of Lynn Haven and the CRA, on the budget for the city of Lynn
Okay,
Haven.
well, this item that we're talking about now is adopting a final CRA agency budget. That's what we're talking about.
Understand that? Okay. CRA budget, up on top, page 80. You'll notice CRA director, 60% CRA, 40% economic development. Okay, on subject? Thank you. The budget established, the city budget, on this subject, established a new office with a new budget. Under the personal schedule of CRA director, 60%, 40%, economic development. This proves a long-standing fact that the CRA director is not fully employed in full capacity to workload he is measuring up to. It implies the CRA salary and benefits should be halved. The need for an economic development office within the city staff, besides singularly targeted Bay County Economic Development Office, which we support to the tune of $20,000, and we derive no support. My question and my answer, you always ask me to come up with an answer, is we should have a difference between the Economic Development Officer, which has a separate budget, has a separate director, has everything separate, it's paid for by the city, from the CRA. Therefore, we could split up the CRA director and allow him to pay attention to his job. And that is in the budget. We pay him a certain amount to do CRA work. He should be able to do that. In the budget, you will also see that he does professional services. He asks for that. So he's getting assistance and help. We were recently asked to appoint an assistant to the CRA director. That was shot down. Thank you. The CRA director will be doubling or tripling his workload when and if Bay County allows us to establish the CRA at the fuel depot. I believe that we should have his full attention to the CRA rather than split his time with economic development. If we need economic development, let's hire an economic development person, part-time, save money, and do it that way.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments about the CRA budget resolution? Yes, Ben? And I would remind everyone that the budget is a fluid document, that it is reviewed at mid-year, and, you know, if changes come about, there is time to amend, there's time to do things to the budget at that time. This is not cut in stone for eternity. Mr. Jonke?
I just wanted to clarify, City Manager Michael White already pointed it out that we discovered a scrivener's error between when we printed the handout for today's, or the agenda packet for today's meeting and the actual meeting today. There was a surplus of $80,000, so we subtracted it, and the new total balance for the proposed budget is $606,626. Just wanted to clarify this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Mr. White, did you have any other comments? Okay, there's been a motion and a second for approval. Is there any other public comment or question? Thank you. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes? Aye. Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
No.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. The CRA agency budget for fiscal year 2017-2018 is accepted, approved, and again, it is a fluid document. It can be changed at the mid-year or as time brings about that need. Item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of a new CRA advisory board member and pre-approval of 2 other applicants.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Judy Riera as the board member, and then the other 2 applicants will be the pre-approval applicants.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes? Aye. Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So they are approved. Thank you so much. Then we move to the final item for the CRA board meeting, which is item number 5, which is public commentary. At this time, you have the opportunity to make any comments that you would like or ask questions about the CRA. I would ask that you try and curb your comments to 3 minutes if possible, because we do have a large group of people here. If you have a prepared statement and it takes slightly longer, I certainly will not cut you off. But at this time, if there's public comment or question, you're free to approach the podium. There appears to be none. So I'll move to item number 6 then, which is adjournment of the CRA meeting. Meeting is adjourned. And we will move directly into our regularly scheduled board meeting, which is, sorry, I just skipped a page. We'll move to our regularly scheduled board meeting for Tuesday, September 26th. I'd like to call that meeting to order. And not out of habit, but out of just pleasure of hearing him address Almighty God, I would like to ask Mr. Leon Miller if he would please ask our invocation before we begin this meeting. I appreciate your willingness to do that, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
May we pray, please? Our Father, our God, again, we come before you, say thanks, O Heavenly Father, for the day that you have given us. Thank you for as you guided us through this day, O Heavenly Father. O Heavenly Father, we ask you to look up under this city commission, and in the city that they make, decisions that they make will be betterment for this city, O Heavenly Father. O Heavenly Father, we ask you to look upon our country also, O Heavenly Father. Guide them in the right decision for this world, O Heavenly Father. O Heavenly Father, again, we said thanks for all the blessings that you have sowed upon us. In thy name, for Christ's sake, ever. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Slide. I feel like there we go.
Just give everybody a moment to get settled before we begin. This is a public hearing this evening, and so at this time, I'm declaring this public hearing open. It is 6:03, and item A is the proposed millage rate for the 2017 tax rolls. And at this time, I'd like to ask our city manager to make those comments that he would like to make about the proposed millage rate. And we have been going through quite a bit of information this afternoon, so just give him just a moment to get that together.
Sorry about that, Mayor.
No problem.
Okay, the millage rate we're looking to adopt is the ad valorem of 3.9. That is 0.74% higher than what it was if we'd done the rollback rate, and that's due to the fact of leaving it steady and the actual revenues, the actual pricing of homes and things has went up, so we recommend that we leave it to 3.9.
Okay.
No change.
Would you please, at this time, do you have the resolution 2017-09697 adopting the final millage rate?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2017-09-697. A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, levying the final ad valorem property tax millage rate for the municipal purposes on all taxable property within the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017 and ending September 3rd, 2018, stating the percentage by which the millage to be levied exceeds the rollback rate and providing an effective date.
Thank you. At this time, are there any questions or comments from the board regarding this millage rate? Are there comments from the public? If you have a comment or a question, if you would just approach the podium and you may speak to the commission. Yes, please.
Mayor, before you do that, I just had one comment. I just wanted to state that the percentage by which the millage rate to be levied exceeds the rollback rate of 3.8713 is 0.74%. Thank you.
Mr. Walker, go ahead.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I just want to reiterate that I heard you correct. This is an increase.
It will be an increase because property values went up.
Okay.
Less than a percentage, yes, sir.
But
the ad valorem is staying the same.
the ad
Not
valorem
changing our
millage rate
rate.
is staying the same?
The rate is staying the same, 3.9.
What was it last year?
3.9.
Was?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
There you go.
Mayor.
I'm sorry, I overlooked
Place that
someone.
down.
Gentleman in the back.
Oh, please approach the podium. I'm sorry, I just didn't see you. Just if I miss you, just yell out, make yourself known.
I'm Mr. Schultz, I'm from Pennsylvania Avenue. I have a question. I'm a little confused. You're not raising no property tax, but we're having a proposed millage rate. Please explain that to dumb little me.
I didn't hear the entire question. I'm sorry.
Okay, you're having a proposed, let me read this, millage rate, but Dr. White says there will be no increase. I don't quite understand this.
The rate is staying the same, the 3.9 millage rate is staying the same, but as property values increase, the amount of taxes the city brings in will increase with that amount. So if this year, say your home was worth $1,000, next year it's worth $1,050. So the amount that if we roll the rate back to where it equate the same as it was last year, you're looking at what the attorney mentioned is 3.8713. However, I'm recommended to the board to leave it as the same amount that the rate as 3.9.
Okay, so exactly like it is, then you're saying?
Pardon me?
I said, it's exactly the same amount
Exactly.
Okay.
Is there another question or comment? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further comment? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so the resolution has been adopted, and the time of the adoption is 6:08 Central Standard Time. Item B is the proposed general fund budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. We'll begin this portion of the meeting with City Manager Michael White's comments.
We had 3 workshops, Mayor and Commission, on the budget itself. We went through pretty extensive, it's pretty extensive budget, a lot of technology, a lot of new things we're going to be bringing to citizens this upcoming fiscal year. If you have any questions about it, right now, please feel free to ask me. Maybe I can clarify anything I did not during the workshops.
Okay, with that, Mr. White, if you would be so kind as to read the title of Resolution 2017. Well, I can do that. I'll read the title, Resolution 2017-09-698, adopting the final general fund budget and approving the enterprise funds budgets for fiscal year 2017-2018. At this time, are there any public comments or any public concerns regarding the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget for the city? Yes, ma'am.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. With your permission, Mayor, I'd like to also thank Mr. White for the update at the workshop, answered many of my questions also. I did find something that I hadn't heard an answer from you on page 18, if we could look at that. In the miscellaneous revenue area, 3 from the bottom, splash pad contributions, 4150, is that the contributions that the mayor has received from the community?
Make sure with our CPA, is that correct? As of 8:30, that's how much we have collected.
So there have been some
from
more.
your fundraising effort.
And yes, and
It
there are also funds on a website with Facebook, GoFundMe. It's around, I think, $400 at this time. It's not significant, and that GoFundMe will end on December 31st. And at that point, then they'll disperse those funds, and then we'll bring them to the city. But it's online and public, so.
And also, on page 29, it's also, I believe, referencing the splash park. Under operating expenses, towards the bottom, it says bank charges splash in capital letters.
What is that?
And there's a charge for the new fiscal year of $600.
Beverly, can you?
When Mrs. Miller, the former city accountant, set up the account with SunTrust Bank to handle the splash pad, those were the fees to set up the account and to put it on to an online, and those fees will be deducted from the splash pad
That's what I
collection.
assumed would
Yes.
happen. Thank you. Then the other, I thank Mr. White for referencing his mistake, not adding the CTC information to the trolley amount, because at the last workshop you said it was in the budget. I went home, I drove myself crazy trying to find it in the budget, but it wasn't there. But you added it today.
Yes, ma'am, that was my first stop Wednesday morning with Beverly's office. I said,
Yeah.
something didn't jive with me,
So
so
I
I do
certainly-
apologize once again.
I'm glad it was your mistake and not my mental
Yeah, it was
ability
my
of finding
mistake.
The other question I have is page 18. I'm not sure if I don't know what this is or if there is something missing. At the very bottom, under Other Sources, there's a surtax bond proceeds received in PY, and the PY is capitalized. Is that standing for past year, or is there something?
Past year, that's what we've got in this year already. The funds done been drawn down, but we'll be spending those in the fiscal year next year. So we brought that forward.
And the last thing I'd like to cover is the raises for the commissioner, the mayor and commissioners. I, again, don't feel that it's appropriate. I went out and wrote an article for the paper stating so, and I have received a huge amount of feedback from that, from everywhere. Well, that's not even enough, to maybe it's too much, to they shouldn't even receive anything. They should be happy to help the city. My main problem with all of that is the way it was done. I feel like the charter mentions doing it by ordinance and referendum. I think if you even had just added it as a line item, like you did the increases of the enterprise funds, where the people in the city of Lynn Haven could see it listed that you're wanting to increase the salary, the compensation, that they would know what the commissioners were receiving. For instance, at election time, they could say, this is the salary that so-and-so commissioner is receiving. Do I think that he's worth that? And that might be, help them decide whether or not to vote for a specific person. I just feel that it was handled, I think, more fairly if everybody in the city was aware of it, not just in the budget, because not a lot of people read the budget. The citizens read the budget. So that was my comment on that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the public regarding the budget for 17-18? From the public, yes.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan. Back to the splash parks. There was a lot of discussion on that, and you took a lot of heat on that, and you did get it straightened out where you took it on yourself. It's very interesting to see all of a sudden we had all that animosity and disagreement and everything like that. Now we're together and we find $300,000 to build 2 splash parks. Very interesting. Good politics. Nice. My question is this. Your fund that you set up, was that a 501c3?
Pardon me?
Was that a 501c3?
I don't know what it's titled. I just know that it's in a city account and it's open to the public to see, Mr. Walker.
That answered my question. Fine. Thank you very much.
You're saying that it's not taxable is what you're asking me?
What I was worried about, if it was a 501c3, you could not give that money to the city.
Actually, every step of the splash pad and the funding has been under the advisement of our attorney and the accountant, so I think it's all up and up.
Nice job.
Mayor, if I may. Mr. Walker, you say it's a coincidence that we found the money. The money was there. I think the difference is you have a different makeup on this board. You have a different makeup on this board. You have 2 new members on this board. I was one of the ones that thinks this is a good idea to do 2 splash parks. Now, I'm not going to say it was my idea, but I think you're going to find that this board is working better together now. There's less conflicts. We are a lot more cohesive than the prior city commission. So I think that's what you're seeing, and I think you're going to continue to see us improve our relations and work better.
I think that was my point.
Are there any other comments? Yes, sir.
Mr. Schultz, Pennsylvania Avenue. I grew up hard working for every dollar I got and spend it wisely. When I see that the commission has doubled the salary, am I correct in this?
You are correct in part of that. It's not a salary. It is based on charter and ordinance.
Well, whatever you want to call it, it's double
Well,
what
you asked
get.
a question I was trying to answer. I'll give you your time back. The salary for the commission, according to Lynn Haven Charter, is $1. Over the years, over and over, and that's over 60 years, okay? And so over the years, as expenses rise, this commission, I've been a part of this commission for about 2 years and 3 months, but this commission has periodically raised the amount of their stipend which covers their expenses. It is my belief that to serve in public service, I know that I very easily work 40 hours a week as mayor and am on call 24/7. I'm speaking for myself. I'm sure the other commissioners could speak the same. With Facebook and social media and with telephone, I'm very accessible to the public. I do not consider, if this $8,000, however many dollars I make now, is changed to $17,000, it is 100%. But it's not as though that compensation was $100,000 or $50,000 or even $25,000. It's expenses so that people who serve their communities are able to serve without having to take out-of-pocket money. On the other side of that, are the members of the board charitable? They say not to list those things you do for charity. You might be surprised if you saw what many members of the board do with the money they receive, how they give it back to the community in various ways. What I would say to you, and as I would say to those who might be opposed to that, if you want to move forward in line with the other cities, we are the second largest city in Bay County. We are a progressive, fast-moving city. We are one of the most desirable places to live. If you want the leadership to be people who will continue that momentum and draw people to this commission who want to work hard, you have to at least cover their expenses to work. If you're opposed to that, when the next election comes up, if this should pass, or even before then, if you're opposed, speak out against me or those who would ask that we be compensated just for what we spend. Panama City Beach commissioners have a salary and benefits $25,000 plus a $450 a month car allowance alone. Panama City Beach is the third largest city. We're the second. Panama City Beach compensates their commissioners $22,272. These are expenses. I personally belong to the Florida League of Cities, the Florida League of Mayors, the National League of Cities, the Fast Action Strike Team, the Florida District for League of Cities. I do a great deal of traveling. I meet with representatives. Some of that is compensated by the city, some is not. All the commissioners work on various boards. They're working very hard for the city. So I do not apologize personally myself for asking for that increase. But I took some time. You have almost all of your 3 minutes left if you'd like to rebut or come back or say more.
Well, just looking at statistics, that plus the benefits, if you were to maximize them out, I'm talking about the whole commission, it would come up under $200,000.
I don't take any.
Mayor, excuse me.
I did not receive any benefits.
You campaigned on people getting high salaries.
I campaigned on 10 members of the city employees, 10 people who made $1.2 million. And I campaigned because stormwater fees were being transferred to general fund to sustain $1.2 million for 10 employees. I still say that's wrong. And some of those employees have retired. They've been replaced with employees making the salary that should have been in place for those positions. I still stand by what I said. $100,000 plus benefits is a far cry from an expense account of $17,000, and we both know that.
But we even hired Dr. White at almost maximum range, which has never been done before.
We've never had a city manager.
You campaigned on that.
We've never had a city manager who has a doctorate degree and who has managed a corporation 3 times the size of our city and who's going to move this city forward with technology. There was not even a computer on the mayor's desk when I came into office.
And another thing, too.
But continue, please, and I won't interrupt again.
Another thing, too. If he has a PhD, he's a doctor, and he should be accommodated by being called doctor. Most of you call him Mr.
He's not finished his dissertation yet. He's almost done.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm almost.
My apologies, Mr. White.
Hey, that's fine. It sounded good.
He's close. Yes, ma'am. Please approach the podium. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Schultz. They're appreciated.
Well, this is my first time talking.
We're glad to have you. Go ahead.
I really am Dr. Devine. I'm Dr. Therese Devine. I own 2101 Andrews Road here in Lynn Haven. And I did read in the newspaper about the raises. And I was thinking, well, if you actually were going to work here, and that's what your proposal was when you got to be mayor and got on the board, that you knew what your salary was going to be. So I'm opposed to just across the board saying, oh, we all need raises. And I heard another lady say something on the order as well. I think if it was more of a gradual thing, instead of like just doubling or kind of, I think if it's a gradual thing, then the people of the community could incorporate it into their budget. I think for all of the people in Lynn Haven, they're like going, oh my God, where are we going to find the money to pay all this? And I think that's where we're coming up with this little bit of a panic situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments are appreciated. Anyone else? Is there anyone from the board who would like to comment or ask questions about the budget before we proceed?
I would. Please. I mentioned this before in the workshop, and I would like to make a motion that we table the raise part of our budget until we can get in line with our ordinance and our charter, where it says that we have to have an ordinance followed up by a referendum.
There's a motion on the table. Thank you, Commissioner Tender. If that motion then it does not have a second, is there anyone who wants to second the motion? Okay. Thank you for making your motion, Commissioner Tender. Any other discussion of the budget? Okay, Mr. White, let me see where I'm at. I'm sorry. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution then for the budget?
Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion to adopt this year's fiscal year 2017-2018 budget, and there has been a second. Mr. White, is there any other public comment? I'm sorry. Is there any other commission comment? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
No.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so we have adopted the proposed general fund budget for 2017-2018, keeping in mind that any city or municipality budget is a fluid document which can be revisited at the mid-year point and can be changed or added to or deleted from. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of your hard work on the budget, Mr. City Manager. At this time, I do declare this public, I'm sorry? I was just about to. At this time, I do close the public hearing, and the time is 6:25 Central Standard Time. Thank you. The next item is another public hearing, and it is beginning at the same time, 6:25 Central Time. This is the proposed Community Redevelopment Agency budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. City Manager comments regarding the CRA budget.
We've had, like the regular budget, we've had several meetings on it. I'd just like to entertain if there's any questions of me or Ben about the CRA budget.
Any questions from the board? Okay, would you please read the title of the resolution, please?
Resolution number 2017-09-699. A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, adopting a Community Redevelopment Agency final budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017, and ending September 30th, 2018, and appropriating for the purposes specified funds of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, Community Redevelopment Agency, in amounts specified for disbursement according to said budget.
Thank you. So the resolution has been read. This is for the CRA budget, separate from the regular city budget. Does anyone from the public have a comment or question about the CRA budget before we vote to approve or not approve? And there appear to be no comments or questions. At this time, Mr. White, would you please call the roll? I'm sorry. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution? I apologize.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board or the public? Mr. White, would you now please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
No.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so the motion does carry. The CRA budget is adopted for fiscal year 2018, and this public hearing is now closed at 6:27. Then we move to item number 5 of the commission meeting this evening, and that is the mayor's report. It's been a very difficult couple of weeks for the state of Florida as well as the Caribbean with the hurricanes, that we have had in our area, and I'm so proud to be part of Lynn Haven. In the past week, if you noticed the big flag that was flying up over the Walmart shopping plaza, our first responders, under the direction of Mr. White, myself, and some other members of the commission, helped on the radio with Dr. Shane with 92.5. Greg Abrams of Tarpon Dock Seafood donated 2 of his semi-trucks, drivers, and paid the cost of that. And the people of this community, and really all of Bay County, helped. But it was here in Lynn Haven, and there was a great community spirit. This is a very generous community. We filled 2 semi-trucks. And I just want to commend Police Chief Matt Reamer, Police Chief John DeLange, all of the first responders who worked so hard to load those trucks, pallets and pallets of water. I mean, if you can imagine, people bought baby formula, diapers, every kind of cleaning material. And the first responders, they were such a big part of that. And at that beautiful, if you haven't seen the city's new beautiful American flag that flies on top of our ladder truck, it was just like a beacon up over Highway 77, and everyone was very, very excited. It was very emotional time. So everyone can be proud. One of those trucks went to, I believe, an area church in LaBelle, Florida, that helped distribute, and the other truck went to Marathon Key, and the Keys have been devastated, so they received a lot of goods, and they were told where they came from. So please be very proud and very grateful that we were able to do that. Last night I had the pleasure of speaking with the Bay County Libertarian Party. Of course, municipal government is nonpartisan. I actually am not affiliated with any party, independent, and so it's always interesting when I go to the various meetings. And it was a great meeting. I had an opportunity to meet a lot of really interesting people. Also, over the past 2 weeks, I've adopted sort of a fitness plan for myself on a bicycle, and I've been driving on the bicycle all around Lynn Haven, and I found that's a really easy way to find people outside and in their yards and out and about. I've been coming to City Hall a couple times on the bicycle and, dressed like riding a bicycle, but it's been really great and a way to meet more people. The paving project is coming along really well. Everybody seems to be very excited about it. We have, if you haven't come to a lot of our meetings, you know that we have an oversight committee for our half-cent sales tax, which is coming in, and that paving is moving along. I told someone the smell of asphalt is wonderful in Lynn Haven, and I did get my bike stuck in some pretty gooey stuff, but it's been a great couple of weeks. I've had a great deal of feedback on the traffic calming with people listing their streets, which streets they need help on with speeding and stop signs or some type of devices, and I have all those listed. And we, if you weren't here earlier for our workshop, we've made some great progress on making that traffic calming policy a lot less bulky. We're going to have one more meeting and try to put something together that's that will work for us here in this city, and should be very easy very soon for you to find some relief for the speeding and the congestion in some of the neighborhoods. So that's all I have. Commissioner Russell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just got a couple of things. First, I want to start off by apologizing. There's been 1 or 2 commission meetings where I have just said no report. I can assure you that it's not that I wasn't working, but I've always been that guy that believes that you tuck your head, you get your job done, and you're going down the road. You don't brag about what you're doing. Well, it was brought to my attention that some of the citizens take that as that nothing's getting done and I'm just sitting on my laurels. And I can assure you that's the farthest from the truth. So from now on, you'll get a report out of me telling you what's been going on the past 2 weeks, since the prior commission meeting. That being said, to start off with, I've met with one citizen that has some issues with, apparently we had somebody that fell out at the concession at the baseball park, and she's concerned that we don't have an AED machine at the rec center, or no, I'm sorry, we have one at the rec center, but we don't have one at the concession. So I'm going to get with Maria the next day or two and talk to her about that. I've also had a meeting with the city manager and the city engineer after I received several complaints about the traffic problems at the corner of Minnesota and Mosley Drive. And fortunate for me, they have already started looking at ways to relieve that, and they're continually trying to find a solution to that traffic problem. I've also had a couple of citizens complain about the speed bumps that were removed on Connecticut, and when I discussed it with the city manager, he is, again, a step ahead of me, and he's already working on trying to get that resolved and get those speed bumps back. I also had a citizen call and complain about the reduction in speed on Mosley Drive. And I couldn't explain to him exactly the reasoning why we did that at the time, but I did call him back and inform him that it was an issue, I believe, with trying to get the roads to where the golf carts could drive down Mosley Drive, correct? He didn't exactly appreciate that response, but at least he appreciated me calling him back. He asked that we consider having some kind of policy about reducing speeds instead of just doing it. And that was a discussion at the workshop, and I think we're going to incorporate that in the traffic calming procedures. I also wanted to let you know that the reports that we got back from the city this last week about the month of August, for the rest of y'all that don't know about Walmart and Sam's, and I'm not by no means a huge shopper at Walmart, but for the month of August, they donated 1,630 pounds of dog food to the animal shelter. They donated 580 pounds of cat food, 188 cans of cat food, 590 pounds of cat litter, 60 pounds of dog food, 60 pounds of bird food, cedar bedding, and waterless shampoo that they donated to the city. So if you see a manager or somebody at Walmart, please tell them thank you. We want them to do that. This is something they continually do, and we want them to continue to do it. The other report that really stuck out that I got this month was from the police and fire. Don't ever believe that these guys aren't working their butts off. The police department had 2,572 calls they dealt with in August. The fire department had 188 incidents they had to deal with. Code enforcement had 201 new cases and 226 inspections that he had to deal with. Streets and utilities had to deal with 279 work orders. It's when you look at these numbers, it's amazing what the city does, and you just need to make sure you appreciate what they got. And there was a comment made about the city manager's salary. If you don't believe he's earning what he's being paid, come work with him for a day. And that's all I got, Mayor.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes. I actually want to also say hats off to everybody who worked on the food drive up there at Walmart. It was amazing. I went up about 4 o'clock, and I think the second semi was almost full at that point. And Lynn Haven should be very, very proud. We have a lot of generous citizens, and hopefully, as we all work together, we'll just get better and better and improve everything. I'm currently working on an issue at the country club where debris is being put on somebody's private property. And I'm also working with a resident on Colorado Street regarding easement and deed issues that stem back to 1922. I hear giggle, giggle, yeah. And, and this is my fun one for this week. I got a call. Actually, they paid a visit to me in person regarding smelly chickens and burning trash at night. And that's been turned over to code enforcement to deal with. And the last thing on my list is this coming weekend, I'm very excited. Maria and the group from Leisure Services have put a lot of effort into a big event we're having on Florida Avenue with the cruise in. The last report, there's over 115 antique cars and hot rods going to be on display down there, 2-block radius. And there's going to be a live band, food, bouncy house for the kids. And I think it's just going to be amazing. But the day's going to start early because there's going to be a huge craft show at Roberts Hall in the morning and in the afternoon. And they also have a live concert that night. And the cruise-in starts at 5 and goes till 8. So it's a non-alcoholic event. So bring your whole family. And I just think it's going to be first of hopefully many of these kind of events over there. So I'd like to see a big turnout.
I think it's going to be fabulous. I think I saw something about that you were having root beer floats.
Yep, that's true. Root beer floats.
Looked pretty good. Thank you. Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, as you guys know, that Highway 390 is being expanded, and the crosswalk that's there at Mowat School is actually being moved over on Mowat School Road so that the students can cross on that area. The person that was responsible for getting that crosswalk served on this commission for quite some time and just recently passed away. His name was Harold Haynes. Harold gave his life basically to this community. He worked hard, meeting with DOT, trying to find ways to better this city. And with that said, I think it would be fitting if we would name that crosswalk the Harold Haynes Memorial Crosswalk. Because if it wasn't for that crosswalk, a lot of kids would have to cross Highway 390. And as we know, that would be a very, very dangerous situation. So I'm going to ask my colleagues in the form of a motion if they would approve that, naming that crosswalk the Harold Haynes Memorial Crosswalk.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that the new crosswalk, which will be on on Mowat School Drive, which is a Lynn Haven city street, that it would be named after former Commissioner Harold Haynes. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public? Yes, sir.
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. One question. Is this been run by the state of Florida? Who's billing that crosswalk?
Well, they're actually taking the existing crosswalk and moving it over.
But did the state of Florida bill it?
State of Florida did bill it.
Okay then. Have they gave this approval to be named?
We will check with them and see, and if they say it's okay, I don't anticipate a problem, but I think it'll be all right.
Is there any further discussion? Questions? Okay.
To add one thing.
Yes, Ms. Tennell.
He was in charge of he was the one that put the traffic light there on Tennessee, where my husband had his accident and died.
That's absolutely correct.
Thank you for adding that, Mrs. Tennell. Anything else? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so the motion stands approved that the crosswalk, once moved to the Lynn Haven street of Mowat School Drive, will be named after former Commissioner Harold Haynes. Very nice decision.
Also, Mayor, I had the opportunity to meet with our city engineer with regards to the traffic on Mosley Drive. There are some ideas that are being tossed around, and I think once they decide exactly what needs to be done, I think you'll see a little bit better safety pattern that will take place there. Also, this is on a personal note, and I need to give kudos to the Lynn Haven Police Department. This past Sunday, I had a critter that decided that he wanted to move into my garage, about 5 feet long, little rat snake, wasn't so little. My wife almost had a coronary, and I was right there with her because I don't like snakes either. But I called our police department, and they were kind enough to send someone out and remove that snake. So, these guys just don't get enough praise for what they do. And Chief, thank you so much. Thank you for the job that you do, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. I just, for the sake of time, I'll just share one quick thing. And I do serve on the TPO Advisory Subcommittee for advertising on the trolley, and I just want to let everybody know that we did have a subcommittee meeting, and at that meeting we selected a firm that we will be presenting to the TPO board on October the 26th. So you may start seeing some advertising on the trolleys. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out to me. I'll be glad to go over it with you in more detail. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. At this time, I have a proclamation that I would like to read from our Junior Service League, and I think we have Representatives Casey Latham and Christy Rogers with us. Ladies, if you'd like to come forward at this time. And this is a proclamation. This is work that this organization does. And as I read it, I do want to tell you when I present it to you, we're going to give you another copy of this because the mayor signed in the city manager's spot. It's my fault, but we will hand you another one. Whereas diaper need, the condition of not having a sufficient supply of clean diapers to ensure that infants and toddlers are clean, healthy, and dry, can adversely affect the health and welfare of infants, toddlers, and their families. And whereas national surveys report that 1 in 3 mothers experiencing diaper need at some time while their children are less than 3 years of age, and 48% of families delay changing a diaper to extend their supply. And whereas the average infant or toddler requires an average of at least 50 diaper changes per week over 3 years. And whereas there are no government assistance programs for the purchase or provision of diapers, and a monthly supply of diapers can cost as much as 6% of a full-time minimum wage worker's salary. Therefore, obtaining a sufficient supply of diapers can cause economic hardship to families. And whereas a supply of diapers is generally an eligibility requirement for infant and toddlers to participate in child care programs and quality early education programs, and whereas the people of Lynn Haven recognize that addressing diaper need can lead to economic opportunity for the state's low-income families and can lead to improved health for families and their communities. And whereas Lynn Haven is proud to be home to various community organizations that recognize the importance of diapers in helping provide economic stability for families and distribute diapers to poor families through various channels. Now, therefore, I, Margot Deal Anderson, Mayor of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim the week of September 25th through October 1st as Diaper Need Awareness Week in the City of Lynn Haven, and I encourage the citizens of Lynn Haven to donate generously to diaper banks, diaper drives, and those organizations that distribute diapers to families in need to help alleviate diaper need in Lynn Haven and environs. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the state of Lynn Haven to be affixed this 26th day of September of the year of our Lord, 2017. And I congratulate you and your organization for what you've done to bring this awareness about. And also just wanted to let you know that in light of the proclamation, in light of the storm, I had the pleasure, I shopped for $200 worth of diapers to put on the truck because of your proclamation it brought to me. I was thinking about a mother being there without diapers. So thank you, ladies. I want to come down and present it to you. Moving now to item number 7, which is the city manager's report. Mr. White?
Yes, ma'am. Just report to the commission and citizens that we have our first 2 ARC employees working for us now. We have Jocelyn, who is working between the administrative building and library. She's helping out a lot. I know she's been doing a lot in the permitting area. She's been helping them a lot. Then we have Chris. Chris is helping us out at the recreational facility and also at the animal shelter. And I know he's been doing a lot of sweeping and feeding dogs. So both of them have been tremendous assets, and I appreciate y'all allowing me to do that. Also, I'd like to bring attention that Ben and I have started a key accounts program where we are going out visiting with the major employers of Lynn Haven. And as we work our way down the list, we will continue trying to figure out what they need, what their needs are from the city, as well as how we can help them if they need to educate more employees, if they're going to expand. So we want them to know that we're here as a tool for them to get their job done and continue hiring and employing people in Lynn Haven. The half-cent sales tax project update, many of y'all have already alluded to that. If you've seen a lot of the roads, I know Carolina is like a speedway now. So that may be a road we're going to have to look at in the future a little bit. But they've done a great job as far as paving and replacing a lot of stuff. And I've already started the opportunity to discuss the funding for next year. So I'm on top of that, letting you know that. And then the last 2 things I'd like to bring to your attention is, once again, the Cruise In, 5 to 8 Saturday. We'll be out there, like Ms. Tender said, we have 115 cars. Please let us know how this turns out, because this is the first one, based on attendance, based on your feedback. We'd love to make this an annual event and look for sponsors. So If you see any staff, any of the commissioners, please let us know. And then one thing is dear to my heart that we're going to be doing on October 10th and 17th from 10 to 5. We're doing, a lot of people has donated a lot of food and items, and I give kudos once again to the two chiefs and their staffs. They stepped up. These two guys in the back worked all day. I know my feet hurt, their feet hurt, but we did load those two trucks. We had a lot of good comments from people, and seen a lot of the citizens, people we see, in town. So, but one of the things that I want to bring is and challenge, everyone in the city of Lynn Haven is a blood drive. There's been two major hurricanes in this country. In the United States, and Texas and Florida, and that's one thing we're challenging a lot of different departments across the other cities. If the police department, fire department will join in. As well as our citizens. So remember, October 10th and 17th from 10 to 5 at Sheffield Park, we'll be having a blood drive and, just trying to help out a lot of the hurricane victims. That's all, ma'am.
Thank you. Those are great events. And I just wanted to bring up one other thing that I had neglected. I did have a very extensive meeting with our Senator Gaynor this past week, and he was wanting to talk with me about Lynn Haven's needs as far as funding coming up in the new legislative session. And I talked to him about all things water. We talked about stormwater, about flooding, about water reuse. And so he knows that we have needs, and he's going to be addressing those and working very closely with us. So I just wanted to relay that to you. Also, City Manager's Report, item number 8. City Attorney's Report.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent agenda, we just have one item on that tonight, and that is item number 9, the minutes from the 9/11 regular City Commission meeting. Are there any comments, changes, questions about those minutes, or if not, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions from the public about the September 11th meeting? There appear to be none. Mr. White, would you please call the roll for approval?
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so the minutes stand approved. Old business, items 10, 11, and 12 are resolutions revising water. I'm kind of grouping them together because I want to make a comment, and then I'll pass over to the city manager. Revising the water fees, revising the wastewater fees, and revising the solid waste fees, and we'll be reading each of those resolutions. If you were here during the workshop, we talked extensively about the water, the wastewater fees, and the solid waste fees. And we had Mr. Burton here from the company that's been with Lynn Haven for almost 15 years, doing the CPI studies, giving recommendations on when and if water, garbage, sewer, stormwater, et cetera, should be raised or lowered or kept the same. And at the last meeting, the commission, we did vote that stormwater we would raise by 1.9% because of the stormwater issues that we face in our city. However, we tabled the other amounts, and at this point in time in our workshop today, we came, I think, to a consensus. Of course, we haven't voted yet, and we're going to move this over to Mr. White to discuss. But we are thinking of waiting until Mr. Burton and his corporation completes another study, because the old study is 10 years old, and we didn't feel as a commission that it represents what's really going on in Lynn Haven as far as the growth patterns, things that could affect lowering or raising those rates. And so it's something that's that important to us all. We'd like to wait until those studies are completed, which would be maybe 60 to 90 days, and then readdress those rates at the mid-year budget review. So that's kind of where we were in the workshop. And so at this point, what I would like to do is ask our city manager if he would read each of these resolutions, and then we'll take this a little further with discussion.
Resolution number 2017-09-694, a resolution amending rates and charges for residential and commercial water system, providing for an effective date. Item number 11, resolution number 2017-09-695, a resolution amending rates and charges for residential and commercial wastewater system, providing for an effective date. Item number 12, resolution number 2017-09-696, a resolution amending the rate structure for residential and commercial solid waste collection and providing an effective date.
And so, Mr. White, at this time, if you could just give us sort of a recap of what we talked about in the workshop and then make a recommendation as to where the commission should go with these ideas.
Yes, ma'am. I want to go back to stormwater. That was passed. That's a 1.9% increase. That will equate to 7 cents. So your bill will go up 7 cents per month. I know 1.9 sometimes sounds like a big number, but it's in actuality it's 7 cents. On the other three, I gave considerable thought from our last workshop until today, and I spoke with Mike with Stantec. The best thing I can recommend to the board is not passing these resolutions today. What I would like to do is the budget that you just passed has several rate studies in it. Stantec has the ability now, since most cities are doing their budgets like us, to be able to spend some time on that. He tells me that he can get me some data between next 60 to 90 days working with me and my staff to solidify, growth patterns, what kind of upgrades we got to have, what's going to happen out at the fuel depot. There's a lot of things go into rate studies. So my recommendation to y'all is not pass these resolutions and allow us to get all this data together and bring to you a better number that can be quantified with today's rates, because those studies was done in 2010.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board or a motion from the board?
Mayor, I make a motion that we table item 10, 11, and 12 till after the new study can be conducted.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that we do table the resolutions revising these fees until the study is complete. Is there any further question or discussion from the board?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we're going to keep the rates the same until we get the study back, correct?
Yes, sir. Everyone in Lynn Haven will have the same sanitation, same water, wastewater rates. The only one that will be changing is stormwater, and it will go up the 1.9%.
7 cents per month, right? Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, if I can, second question. Do we treat Mike's company as a professional service where you have to qualify them, or is it going to be an RFQ or a minimum bid, or does it fall below the necessary?
No, sir. These studies are pretty entailed, and we'll be going through our engineering firm as normal, like we have in the past.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Are there any further questions from the board? Any from the public? Any comments about this? Any questions about what we're doing? Yes, ma'am.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. The signed resolutions, do they stay in-house or are they sent to the state for filing? Or are they just in-house documents?
My understanding is the documents should be kept in a digital form as well as a hard copy form, but I'll defer to the attorney.
Yeah, the signed resolutions are kept in the official records of the city. They aren't sent to the state.
They don't go to the state, they stay in-house?
Yes, ma'am, unless it's required by some other rule, but no, typically they do not.
I'm not. Thank you. Mrs. Walker was pointing out that there was a mistake on the resolution. I'm not sure. Are we speaking like a typographical mistake or I'm sorry. A grammatical mistake. I'll have to look at that one again. I haven't. Okay. Anybody else? Comment? Yes, ma'am. Sir, sorry.
I'm Lou Freeman, the 17th Street Ditch Monster. I just want to thank the board for revisiting this whole thing on the water rates. Would ask them that they consider looking at some kind of an exemption for senior citizens that are on fixed incomes, that 3.9% can be a sizable increase in their bill for those kinds of people. I happen to be one of those. And, we haven't had a pay raise from Social Security now for 4 years, almost 5 years. hopefully we'll get some this year with a new president. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comment, and it's well taken, and even if, even if they were all passed, the amount, I believe, is $3.47 per month is what the rate increase would be, but even at that amount, $3.47 a month, it adds up over the year, and it's something, and this commission, I think, that is the whole mindset here, I believe, of tabling it and waiting because we don't want to pass it on, so. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Mr. White, would you please call the roll on the motion that we table this until after the study is complete?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so it is passed. So as of now, until the study is complete, everything stays as it is in Lynn Haven, okay? New business, item number 13, is discussion and possible action for the approval of the preliminary plat for the Andrews Plantation subdivision. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, and we'll call on our city planner, Miss Amanda Richard.
May I swear in?
Yes, and the attorney will be swearing in those.
Sure, and items number 13 and 14 are quasi-judicial hearings of the city of Lynn Haven. If anybody plans on presenting any testimony, please go ahead and stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
And if any commissioners had any ex parte communications with the applicant or the city regarding this particular matter, please go ahead and disclose that on the record.
I've had none.
None.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Thank you, ma'am.
Go ahead, Ms. Richard, thank you.
This is a preliminary plat approval application. The project name is Andrews Plantation Subdivision. The applicant, CADH LLC. The agent is Jeffrey Peterman from Panhandle Engineering. However, I don't believe he's here tonight. I think Chris Forehand is here. Yeah, so he can answer any specific questions that you have. The parcel number is 11573-050-000. The location is 4846 Highway 389. The land use is low-density residential. The size of the property is almost 25 acres, and the current use is vacant, so there is nothing currently on there. In fact, this is a parcel that was very recently annexed into the city, and we just received last week the approval from the state for the land use change to low-density residential. So it has now, the land use change has now gone through. The applicant wishes to construct an 86-unit residential subdivision containing or consisting of single-family homes and supporting stormwater infrastructure, etc. This is the area which shows you the property outlined in red. It's just west of Cameron's Crossing. And this is the plat layout which was in your packets. We actually got the final plat. This went to the Planning Commission yesterday, just last night, so those minutes weren't in your packet. However, they did all recommend approval, but the final document with all the changes that we required in order for it to meet city and state requirements was received today, and everything on it as far as our department and the surveyor is fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last thing you said, everything is in order. It just came in today after the city planning meeting.
Right. I believe that the city attorney has something that he wants to comment on.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't get a chance to review the plat that came in, I guess, this afternoon around 1 or 2 o'clock. There were 3 or 4 things on the one that was presented to the Planning Commission last night that I would just recommend that you require they be fixed before approval was finalized. One is that the agent is the same as the city engineer on the plat, and typically when our city engineer is acting as an agent for an applicant, we get a second city engineer to review that and sign the plat. I believe that's happened, but the plat itself indicates that Mr. Salina is the engineer on this plat, that needs to be fixed. There were some ownership and authorization issues. This is owned by the Mowat Family Trust. which has about 5 separate owners. And so my understanding is we've gotten most of those documents, but we would just need to confirm that they've all signed off on this beforehand and get a good title report prior to the final plat. And then finally, there's an easement road that was going to be controlled by the HOA that would need to be indicated on the plat, and the dedication would have to be adjusted to reflect that.
And that has been done, but the city attorney hasn't had
I just
an
haven't had a chance to look
opportunity
at it yet, so.
Yeah.
So your recommendation would be that we not move on this item until you've had time to review?
No, ma'am. No, I would recommend that if the commission wants to approve it, you just approve it with those caveats in there. The planning has already said they've gotten, the 2 of them are done. We just need to make sure that the other one's done.
Okay. Any other questions from the board besides mine?
And a lot of this is because we're moving fast on it with the planning last night and coming here, so.
Any questions or comments from the public? Yes, sir. Please approach the podium.
My name is Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. My question is whether this is a one-way in, one-way out subdivision. Are we directing all bicycle and pedestrian traffic out onto 389, or is there interconnection to another subdivision? And if not, why not?
The traffic is all going out onto 389, yes.
Okay. That was a yes to your question. And he's not happy with that answer, okay? Are there other questions or concerns? Okay. Is there a motion for action on this?
Go ahead, I've talked enough tonight.
I was just going to say, I move to approve accepting this development pending the corrections that the city lawyer has said that we need to address.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board?
I do have a question. Is that area a very low-lying area over there? I felt like, is having one entrance going to present a problem? Is it low-lying?
There are some wetlands which are on that property, but all the appropriate permits will have to be in hand. They have applied for their permits for the area being impacted.
Other questions?
Mayor, I'd just make a quick comment that it's exciting to have an additional development, but I know at some point we're going to need to, and I know the engineers do the studies and all that stuff, but I think at some point we're going to need to reach out to the county as they see this develop. 389 is going to have a traffic impact.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, of course.
We have contacted the county. In fact, originally, this developer was looking at perhaps developing in the county. When they came to the city to annex in, we have to notify the county whenever someone is annexing in from the county into the city. So we did notify them, and I have spoken to the planning department. They are aware of this development, and they are aware of the traffic that will be generated by this development.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may, I want to applaud the developer for bringing it into the city. I mean, he could have developed this property and kept it in the county, but he's going to bring it to the city and allow the city to collect the property taxes for it. So, I mean, it's a boom for the city of Lynn Haven. As far as the roads, it only abuts one road. So I mean, it only has one access and one access because it only abuts one road. I don't know how else you could handle that, putting a second road in. So.
Are there other questions or concerns? From the public, anything else? Okay, there's been a motion and a second. We've had some discussion. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes? Aye. Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so it stands approved. Thank you. Moving on to item number 14, this is the discussion and possible action regarding approval of a development order for the Andrews Plantation subdivision. If you'd like to continue, please.
This is a development order application for that same property that we just discussed with a preliminary plat. Development order 17-14, project Andrews Plantation, applicant CADH LLC, agent Jeffrey Peterman, Panhandle Engineering, parcel number 11573-050-000. The land use is low density residential. Location 4846 Highway 389. The size, size is approximately 24.84 acres. Current use is vacant, and the applicant wishes to construct a residential subdivision consisting of 86 single-family homes. The entrance road will remain private. That isn't private as to say public can't gain access. It means that it will be privately maintained by a homeowners association with an access easement granted to the city. Again, this is the aerial of the property. And this is the site plan. So you can see in blue the stormwater pond on the west of the property. In the top right-hand corner, there is another stormwater facility. Running along that east side is where the wetlands are that are going to be permitted for. And also some, I believe, in where the stormwater is. And the entrance road is coming in just to the north of that stormwater pond.
Thank you. Is there a motion for discussion and possible action?
Move approval.
Second.
There's been a motion for approval and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board members? There appears to be none. Is there any question or discussion from the public? Yes, sir. Go ahead. All right, go ahead, Mr. White. It's fine. There's just my behind you.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Lynn Haven has this attitude for one way in, one way out. It's going to bite them one of these days when you get a lockdown and the fire department can't get in, the police can't get in, and the people can't get out. But this is dealing with this. It said private road. Is this going to be a gated community?
Oh, she clarified that and said it was not gated, that it just meant that the homeowners association had control of the road. Is that correct? All right.
The internal roads are going to be maintained by the city, but what's going to happen with that little entrance bit is that it doesn't quite meet city code as far as the width, and because it's kind of coming in, and there's like a central island, so you come in and then there's like an out on the left-hand side. So because it doesn't quite meet our requirements, our width requirements, then it's going to remain privately maintained. So it's open to the public, but the city's not going to pay for the maintenance and take care of the maintenance of that entrance section.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. That answers my question on the gated, but it's still a private maintained road. The internal road is going to be maintained by the city and be up to specifications to be accepted by the city as roads. That's correct.
That's not what I just heard.
That's correct.
Yeah,
I heard something different. I'm sorry. I just misunderstood. Go ahead.
It's all right. That's the way I look at it. Now, the main road coming in will be private. Is this going to be like the country club, or are they going to say one day that they want the other road to be accepted by the city? If so, with the country club, they had to make sure that those roads were up to specifications. Will they make sure that the specifications are met when they decide to turn that road into the city? Is that part of the contract?
The city has a policy, we do not accept roads that don't meet our specifications, so I'm not sure what happened with the country club, but the city would not normally accept those roads unless they meet the city's specifications, so yes.
Thank you. Brad, I think you had a...
Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. Again, I'm harping on the private road. I'm the president of my HOA, and I can say that there is no HOA that ever wants to be responsible for a private road. It just don't even want to think about it. This is a crammed down type of a situation because the developer didn't deal with the issue properly.
Thank you. Are there other comments or questions about this? Sure, go ahead.
My question is this, as far as emergency vehicles getting in and out, you said there was like a circular thing. I mean, are fire trucks and things like that going to be able to service that area?
When we have site plans submitted for a development, we have a technical review committee, and that committee consists of the fire chief as well as public works director, engineer, myself, the building official. So the fire chief is very quick to point out if his vehicles are not going to be able to gain access or if the hydrants aren't where he needs them to be. So he has reviewed these site plans and he is happy with them.
Chief DeLonda, she was asking for your, okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there a further discussion or comment from the public? Yes. Fine, you're fine.
Is that, I suppose there must be some reason that that little entry section could not be brought into code?
Good evening. I'm Chris Forehand with Panhandle Engineering. Originally, the developer wanted the development to be private, but when they brought it into the city, they had a new buyer, a new home builder that wanted to build in there. They didn't want the development to be gated or private. So this drawing that we have up here has a little turnaround at the very front of it. The developer does not plan on putting that in. And the only reason that they kept the road private on the entrance was because the right-of-way width did not meet the city standards. So the road, the curve, the road width, everything met the city standards except the total right-of-way width. And that was only because of the required size of the pond.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Sure, go ahead.
Is Arlene Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue? Yeah, I'm supposed to do that.
Actually, you don't have to by statute. You don't have to do that. So,
well,
go ahead.
All right. But the question is then, it seems funny that if you have state-maintained road, city-maintained roads, and then what is the, you've got one little section of private road, which is the only entry and exit to that area. And what if that maintenance is not kept up in that little area, which becomes an issue for access and egress?
Okay.
What I can say is, under the city's land development code, you're required to keep up all of the stormwater facilities. So that large pond you see there, the HOA has to maintain that. And they're not only required to maintain that by the city, but also the state. So as part of that maintenance and part of the fees that they collect from those homeowners every year, they use that money, they put it in reserves to be able to maintain that road. The city still has an easement and right of access to be able to go into the subdivision, also for access and for utilities.
Okay. Did you have something you wanted to
I was just going to say is when we've done this in the past, the city reviews the HOA documents to ensure that there is a collection mechanism. So if the city says you got to fix your road, that they have a mechanism to collect on the homeowners and have the money to fix the road.
And that'll be done prior to the final plat recording.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Yes, go ahead. You can just ask it from there if you want to.
Okay, that'd be fine. On the aerial view, it looked like there was plenty of room and that this didn't have enough width for the right-of-way. Argument means that you just didn't negotiate with the adjoining property to get the width that you needed.
We couldn't get the pond to fit. It was a 45-foot right-of-way instead of 60. So it's 15
Is that
feet short.
restricted to the property that you're showing? Or
Yes.
if you got some of the land from the adjoining property, would you qualify?
We couldn't. We could qualify, but we couldn't get the land.
You couldn't get the land
Nope.
to put in a legal road?
Nope.
Pretty flimsy.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for the answers. Any other discussion from the board? Okay, Mr. White, would you please call the roll for? Pardon? Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes? Aye. Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So it stands approved. Moving to, we're slowly chipping away at this. Moving on down to item number 15. We have discussion and action to appoint Margaret Barnhart as a new member of the City of Lynn Haven Board of Adjustments. Did you have a report, Ms. Richard?
There's no presentation on the screen because there really wasn't anything to look at. We have,
Sound issue.
we have a Board of Adjustments which meets to consider variance requests. Variances being aspects of the city's Unified Land Development Code that an applicant feels that they cannot meet. That board sits very rarely. In fact, the last time it sat was 2 years ago, I believe. So we are now having the board meet next week or in the next couple of weeks, and we have recently lost 2 members to that board. Angela Turner resigned to sit on the CRA board, and George Outlaw resigned to sit on the Planning Commission because those boards all meet more regularly. So we have a situation where we've been trying to recruit new members, 2 new members. We had a couple of applications from Margaret Barnhart and her husband. However, the city feels that is better. I think the city attorney recommended not have husband and wife sitting on one board. And so staff requests that the city commission appoint Margaret Barnhart to be a new member on the Board of Adjustments, and we are still looking for a second member.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, so it stands approved. Congratulations to Margaret Barnhart. Item number 16 is the first reading of ordinance number 1044, which is revising alcohol distances and restriction on permitting for on-premises alcohol consumption. City Attorney, you have that ordinance for us?
Sure, would you like me to read that?
I just thought you
or-
might have a comment on it before we...
Yes, ma'am. This is just, if you recall, a few months ago, the City Commission decided to adopt the state standards for alcohol distances. We had churches and schools and 1,000 feet, and the city standard, or the state standard is 500 feet. What was missed, though, is that the state standard only applies to on-premises consumption. It's not just sales in general, and the city ordinance required the sales, and so this is to fix that, basically, and match the state requirements. In addition, it also clarifies that on-premises consumption is only allowed on restaurants and bars. And so other places that may apply for a permit wouldn't be able to get this, and we confine that to places where there's actually people to sit and have a place to sit and mingle.
Meaning that
Yeah.
someone could not purchase a beer at the grocery outlet and consume it in the parking
And consume
lot?
it, yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Good. Any other questions or comments about that? Mr. White, would you please read the ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, if I may, I have to disagree with the statement about not drinking in a parking lot. A liquor license in the state of Florida only relates to the property that is licensed. So if grocery outlet license their building as where they control, which is inside the store, then they can't stop somebody from drinking in the parking lot. State license is only by what you've mapped out as what your license is allowed to apply to. Now, obviously, we may have an ordinance that says you can't drink in the parking lot, but this is not going to stop you from doing that.
Okay. I am not sure I totally agree with that, but I'm hearing what you're saying.
Okay.
I don't think that in Lynn Haven we're allowed to have open containers in the parking lot.
And I'm not saying that. I'm saying the state law, as far as liquor license, it only applies to what you map out as your licensed premise.
Got it. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Mayor, yes, ma'am, if I may. As far as the distance from the schools, is it not in the statute anymore for churches? Has that been removed?
There's
The
no,
distance.
in the state statute, there's no church restriction.
Okay.
It's only schools. As a matter of fact, it's only elementary, middle, and high schools. It doesn't even apply to colleges.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. White, would you please read the ordinance, and then we'll have the first reading.
Ordinance number 1044, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 6 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances regarding alcohol beverages, conforming the minimum distance restriction on the sale of alcoholic beverages to match state law, restricting on-premise consumption of alcohol beverages to restaurants or bars, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing for an immediately effective date.
Okay, thank you. And that doesn't require any action. It's just a first reading. Are there any questions from the public regarding the ordinance? Mr. Walker? Sure.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Very interesting point. The ordinance that I read that's on the website added something to it. I didn't hear it here. It also said that the ordinance would allow any place that had a license for consumption of the preparation of food. I'd like to know what they term as preparation of food. Making a sandwich is preparation of food. I don't see that in what Mr. City Manager read. But the resolution that's on the website says preparation of food. And then it goes into restaurants and et cetera, et cetera. So if that's not good on the website and that's not there here, I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with other things that concern this. Does that resolution contain anything about preparation of food? And doesn't define preparation of food?
The resolution defines a restaurant or bar as a facility that derives the majority of its revenues from that prepares or serves food or beverages for public consumption on its premises. And so, for example, a place like, not to pick on Subway, but Subway primarily is a takeout place, or
Yes.
a takeout place would not qualify as a restaurant or bar. It has to be some place that has a place to sit.
Okay.
And derives majority of
We
its.
eliminated that subject matter. Second part of this is, it also says schools. This is the third objective that you voted on, eliminating schools, parks, and places which are close proximity to alcohol licenses. You've specifically removed these. And that is quite a slap in the face to what's been going on in these years to preserve the culture of this town by being, helping the children grow up. You specifically targeted schools, parks, and churches. I don't understand why you want to do this to this small town. Don't forget, when you do these things and change the environment that's been in place for 50 years, you also draw the culture that thrives on this. When you reduce the laws and protection to the people, you also bring into it an environment that feeds on this. They can drink, they can have drugs, they can have anything they want within the proximity of a school. These were stopgap areas that protected the area. I don't understand why this commission wants to do that. And saying you're doing it because you're getting in line with the state laws. When you bring up your next subject, you'll find out what the state laws and everything say. I would think about reducing these checks and balances for our citizens.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, that was the first reading of the ordinance, so there's no action required. Moving to item number 17, this is the first reading of ordinance 1045. Mr. White, would you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 1045, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the Lynn Haven Unified Land Development Code, Section 1.07.00, acronyms and definitions, and Section 2.03.02, Table of Permitted Uses, to add pharmacies and medical marijuana dispensaries as a category of uses in the Unified Land Development Code, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing for an immediately effective date.
Thank you. Just to refresh the memory of the audience, at the last commission meeting, this commission unanimously approved that we would go with one of the choices that were given to us by state statute, that we could allow a medical marijuana dispensary in our city limits if it followed the land use code for a pharmacy. We made our decision based on the voting record of precincts 18 and 19, which is Lynn Haven. Both of those, one was over 65%, one was over 68% in favor of allowing the dispensaries to locate here. Many of the commissioners made comments regarding family members or friends that they had who could find relief through the use of medical marijuana. We had an extensive discussion about the state and the requirements for these dispensaries. Should one want to locate here, they have to have very conservative signage. They are very well guarded. You cannot even enter a medical marijuana dispensary without having a state medical card, which takes about 60 days to get. The way you get one of these cards is by having a medically approved by the state prescriber. I use that word for the doctors. The doctors actually cannot prescribe. They have to recommend an amount for marijuana. It is still considered a Schedule I drug by the federal government, but the state of Florida has approved it overwhelmingly, and so therefore the Lynn Haven Commission followed the wishes of our constituents. So this is just the first reading, and so at this point I would like to allow any discussion from the commission first, and then if there's any comments from the public. Any from the board members? And there is none. Are there any comments or questions from the public regarding the ordinance? Yes, sir.
William Carr, 1500 Massachusetts. Question for the attorney. Are you aware of any federal banking laws that have been changed to allow for these facilities to deposit their funds taken into any local bank?
Apparently, I'm not, but the mayor is, so she says
They have not changed the law. We did discuss that extensively. Federal law still considers medical marijuana a Schedule I drug. The past Attorney General, Mr. Holder, who was under President Obama, said that he would not prosecute anyone using medical marijuana. The present AG under President Donald Trump, Jeff Sessions, has said that he hasn't really said he would, but he hasn't said he wouldn't. He's more of a conservative in that area. However, the state of Florida has overwhelmingly approved the use of medical marijuana. Municipalities had two choices. They could either allow the state to make the regulations by which those would be located, or we could come up with our own, which we felt would be more conservative if we had our own directives for that. It is a cash business. It's not a taxable business. There is great hope in the future that the federal government would change it to a Schedule II drug so that it would not be an illegal act for people who are terminally ill to be able to use medical marijuana for relief of pain and symptoms.
I understand all that.
Well, I thought I answered the question.
No, I understand. No, you didn't answer the question.
No, is the answer to your question.
I'm saying, what are these pharmacies going to do with the cash that they bring in? Because they're not going to be allowed.
They're going to make money.
They're not going to be allowed to put into the banks because that's under federal jurisdiction, under the Treasury Department, not under the DOJ. That money could actually be confiscated and that bank could be shut down because they took in drug money.
You are absolutely correct.
All right then. Why are we allowing this in here and then opening up another venue where you might even get money laundering into the community?
Because 68% of our residents said that's what they wanted.
I understand what the residents want. I voted for it. I understand that. Simply because of my wife's condition. But what I'm saying is you're bringing that in here without going to check all this out. And if the federal government decides to come in here and raid one of these places or raid the banks, they want to know where that money came from. The banks are not going to take the money. Now you've got a business with could be an enormous amount of cash on hand, which is the problem they now have in Colorado because the banks will not take their money. Where is their money going to go?
There are some banks who will. I'm not going to make a statement on that. All I will tell you, I really do not like the comment you made that we did it without advisement or without knowledge.
I didn't say you did it without advisement.
Yes, you did.
No, ma'am. I did not. I said I asked you a question.
Okay, your time is almost
Yeah,
complete,
now you
so-
want to shut me off. That's
Nope.
fine. That's fine.
Say whatever you like. I just don't want to argue with you anymore. If you have something else you'd like to say, you're quite free to say it. You still have time. Well, Well, I just don't like being shouted at, but if you'd like to continue, you may. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Go ahead, sir.
My name's Patrick Casey. I'm also here about that medical marijuana dispensary. Do they have a specific area that they're going to allow it to be put up in? And if so, where is that area?
Sure. First of all, what I was trying to clarify to the other gentleman is on behalf of this commission, I did attend the Florida League of Cities, and it was a 6-hour seminar with lawyers, with representatives from the medical dispensaries, with doctors, with bankers, with all the different representatives for information. I simply brought the information back to this commission, and they decided. The location, if someone even wanted to locate here, they may never want to come here, but if they do, it would be able to be located in an area where pharmacies are located, in that type of land code. And that's what we're doing tonight, is a first reading, deciding, this is an ordinance, it's a first reading for public input for this land use change, that these dispensaries would be operating in the same area as pharmacies. Did I phrase that correctly? I think I did, maybe.
Yes, ma'am. They're allowed in the same areas that a pharmacy could be allowed, which is retail, commercial. And so wherever retail, commercial is allowed in our land use code is somewhere where a dispensary or a pharmacy could go.
Okay. The other question that I had was, you said it's not going to be taxable. It's going to be just like they're not going to be able to tax it?
The federal laws and the state laws are at odds. Now, the former speaker referred to Colorado, which is a completely different place because it's recreationally approved. This is about medical marijuana, so there are different guidelines. At this time, the federal law still states that it is illegal.
Right. And if someone does decide to come here, is it given to a specific person or anyone, or what are the special requirements that are going to be needed to be able to open one, and when would it be able to be opened?
The state has licensed only a limited number. The two largest are, one company is called Knox, K-N-O-X. The other company is called Trulieve, T-R-U-L-I-E-V-E.
Yes.
The closest dispensaries are Pensacola and Tallahassee to Panama City, which causes people here who are ill to have to make the 100-mile drive. I have no knowledge of anybody planning to come here, and there are very strict procedures. I mean, of course, I'm not a lawyer, just the mayor. I just brought.
I understand. All right, so it's pretty much open for just those two, or anyone that can
it's regulated
obtain
by
that
the
license?
state. I believe I think there are 7 licensed right now, and so going.
Yeah, there's a little more than 7. I think there's, 12 maybe. Yeah, I think
There
there's
were 5
12. 12 licensed marijuana treatment facilities, which are allowed to prepare the medical marijuana. They're each allowed to have 25 dispensaries statewide. So statewide, you're looking at about 250 or so dispensaries. And then by law, that number increases when there's so many patients sign up, and then it goes up a little bit each time based on what the legislature set. And so, there's not going to be a lot of dispensaries statewide. It's just a pretty limited number.
Okay.
Are there other questions? Yes, sir.
First of all, thank y'all so much for even thinking about doing the dispensaries, because we really do need them. My only question is do you go through the state to get the license for Lynn Haven, or would we go through Lynn Haven to get the permits?
Are you speaking of opening a dispensary?
Absolutely.
You have to apply through the state, and I do not know that entire
I know
process.
I have a card, but so it will come through the state, not through Lynn Haven?
The first process is through the state.
And then it'd be through Lynn Haven is to get a permit. How long before y'all would issue permits if you get your license through the
We
state?
haven't, we're having the first reading of our ordinance this evening.
So you have multiple readings before there'll be a permit issued? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sure there will come that point if someone wants to locate here, but we haven't reached that point yet.
Okay.
We're just doing the first reading
Well,
of
I
an
thank y'all
ordinance.
for even thinking about it.
You're very welcome.
Mayor, may I ask a
Sure,
question?
go ahead.
I guess that maybe I misunderstood. I thought that medical marijuanas were licensed by the state. If the state issued a license, then we were obligated to allow them to open.
That
here
is
in the
correct, according to my understanding.
Okay, so to answer your question, sir, the only thing you would have to do with the city is to deal with your building. We wouldn't, if you get your license from the state, you come to us, then you deal with your building permits and stuff like that, okay? Is that not
I don't know if
correct?
they do or not, to be honest.
But what we're talking about is that maybe a business license for Lynn Haven and that type
Right,
of, that we
and I-
haven't
and I-
gotten that far yet. You're welcome. Are there other questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Stephen Oliver. I'm with Panama City Beach Marijuana Company, LLC. We are not centrally located here in Lynn Haven. I'm not a resident of Lynn Haven, but we are located in Bay County. Heard a lot of questions here. Maybe I can straighten something up. This certification is required by each and every doctor that has anything to do with the marijuana industry in the state of Florida. The Panama City Beach Marijuana Company, LLC, is licensed with the state. However, there are parameters which the state requires that only a few of them are complying with, such as this 5% THC marijuana content. That's what the legislator is currently going with. Now, there was a question about alcohol in church, and marijuana is going to probably be treated just like alcohol. So in an eatery right there's a law in Florida that says you can't have more than 5% in an edible. You can't have, you can't have more than 15% THC in an edible. All right, and you're not allowed to give children edibles. But what I'm getting at is an edible restaurant, eatery thing. It's not alcohol, but according to the probable new law in Washington that's going to pass, it will be treated as alcohol. And there's 4 parts to my company that I intend to have here in Lynn Haven. All right, the one part is not going to be here in Lynn Haven. It's going to be off in a secluded area. It's where the patented growth process actually occurs. It's where the marijuana is going to be grown for my company. I currently don't grow it because it's higher than 5% THC. I have no intention of going along with this 5% THC. I'm going on the premise that we are entitled improved medical treatment. As well, we're entitled the right to private medical practice, and that's up to the doctor and the patient, and the right to home remedy. And I'm not a scientist that learned how to grow 5% THC. I'm just a regular guy who learned everything that was in this course. As Lynn Haven decides to allow these dispensaries to have this 5% or more in the THC content in the flower or the bud, which the state currently does not allow. However, Morgan versus Florida, which y'all may be aware of, is in the Supreme Court right now.
Sir, if you could wrap up your comments because your time is kind of coming to an end.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on. What I'm getting at is with a higher than 5% THC content in the bud, it's going to be the actual real flower. It's not going to be restricted to when I do it. I can't go to the Supreme Court. I don't have $50 million, but if y'all
Okay,
arrest
sir,
me, I go for
I'm
free.
going to have to stop you there. Basically, our conversation tonight is about the first reading of an ordinance about where these dispensaries could be placed by state law in our city. So I'm going to have to stop you there, but I thank you for all the information that you brought to
I
us.
apologize for going on.
Thank you.
Thank you for what I've learned.
Thank you for coming. Is there anyone else who has a comment? Yes, sir.
I understand the rules. We're dealing with the ULDC. We're dealing with a plot of land that you're going to give permission for them to build a pharmacy. You're looking forward to the future.
I'm having a little trouble understanding.
You're looking forward to the future, okay? However, you've got to understand the rules. This is not an approved drug for a pharmacy.
I think I said that already.
Yes, okay? This is not a legal drug. It is not approved. And if in the future you build this, and they will come, that culture change I told you, they come too, okay?
This is not recreational, Mr. Walker. This is medical
I know, it's
marijuana
not.
dispensaries. Go ahead.
One of the rules the FDA has established is there's no control over this drug. That's one of its drawbacks. And if you build it, they will come and they will use it. You cannot tell me what they're going to do in the parking lot. Why is it cash? It's cash because there's no track record of it. That was a good point.
It's cash because it's federally illegal to have it.
It's not federally. You alluded to an attorney general. That is not an attorney general anymore. He's taken up residence in California they do things their own way.
Jeff Sessions is still the attorney general as far as I know.
He's not attorney general of the United States.
Continue.
He is now. The present attorney general is on record as saying.
Okay, continue on the
The
point.
present attorney general, which you brought up, is on saying that if you do this and we catch you, you will be prosecuted. And I will withhold.
He's not really said that. What he said is that people who use medical marijuana are not good people, was actually what he said.
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying what he said. I'm not quoting him your way. He said that he will withhold all funds to municipalities that do this in grants. It's illegal. The police forces of the federal government, of the state of Florida, and here, if they discover it in your possession or in your body, you are arrested. And the Attorney General of the federal government said the same thing. If you are employed by this city and it is discovered in your system, you are fired. What you're laying is the groundwork for a drastic change.
I appreciate your comments as well as everyone. I just wanted to clarify one more time that tonight is the reading of the first ordinance to allow us to, if it came about that a medical marijuana facility could be located in Lynn Haven, that it would have to be under the same land use regulations as a pharmacy. This commission, in a compassionate gesture, decided that we would go with what our voters ask us to do, that we would not be the government and decide for you what you should do, but that we would represent what you voted for and what you ask us to do. Is there anyone else who has a comment?
Janet Walk, 1106 Michigan Avenue. My husband brought up a question regarding the police. When we were having golf carts, you brought the police up to see what his opinion was of the traffic concern with golf carts. Have we spoken to the chief of police of Lynn Haven to see what his opinion might be on this situation?
I have not personally spoken to him. I just listened to what the voters asked me to do when I voted.
Because I keep hearing this. I don't know much about this dispensaries, but what I keep hearing is that it is illegal. So if a policeman finds somebody with it on them, is it?
No.
It's not illegal then?
Statistically, this is what I learned from, I'm just telling you what I learned when I went to the seminar for mayors in Florida. The federal government at this time is not enforcing any type of law on medical marijuana. There are dispensaries operating all over the state of Florida, and to the best of my knowledge, no one has been arrested. If you were operating a piece of heavy equipment and you had to do a test at work and medical marijuana was found in your blood, you would be treated the same way as if you were operating a piece of heavy equipment with a Lortab in your system prescribed by your doctor. You shouldn't be driving or operating equipment with any kind of prescribed medication, whether it be medical marijuana or a Schedule II. The federal law plainly states that it's a Schedule I drug. It's classified just like all other illegal drugs. The state of Florida has passed an ordinance, has passed a law saying that medical marijuana is legal. So the state and the federal law are opposing each other. Lynn Haven Commission made a decision that we would go with the state law, we would go with what our voters ask us to do, and I really don't know what to say beyond that. Does anyone else have a comment? Are we good? Anybody else? Okay, I think we've had the first reading. We have one more item on tonight's agenda before the public commentary. Discussion and possible action on the acquisition of property located at 809 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yes, Mayor. The city is always growing, and we've mentioned that quite a bit tonight. A lot of people mentioned how it grows. And we have the opportunity behind the chambers here at 809 Pennsylvania Avenue to purchase a home and a little over a half an acre of land. I think it'd be advantageous for the city to look at go ahead and purchasing this property, even though we do not need it at this current moment, but it is contiguous to our land we have, and I think it'd be advantageous for us to look forward planning for the future. It may not be this commission, but it could be, a commissioner or two from here. I have spoken with the realtor and the owners. My intent would be to purchase this property, and there is a renter in the home. I wouldn't think about kicking those people out. It'd be to continue a lease with the city, and the rent would offset the cost of purchasing the property, but it would be an asset for the city in the future.
Are there thoughts from the commission on the city manager's request?
I think that's a good idea. As the city is growing and we are without parking, adequate parking around City Hall, I think it would be to our advantage that we acquire as much property as we can so we can provide adequate parking.
What exactly are they at? What asking price do they have on the property?
I went ahead and been working with Charlie Commander, who has it listed. They're asking 144. We've been bouncing around numbers quite a bit. And of course, the owners did know that was contingent on commission approval. And also, we're at 140.
Are there other questions or comments? Oops.
I do apologize, Mayor.
It's been a long
I did
evening.
leave out one thing, and I meant to say it. The appraisal, that's contingent on appraisal value as well.
Okay.
So make sure it does quantify, it does have the value of at least $140,000.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mayor, the only thing I would ask is, Michael, have we had any success with the house next to it that I understand is in an estate?
The house next door is tied up in a state, so Ben has been looking at that about every other week. So it would be my intention to come back to you and look at purchasing that from the bank because there was a reverse mortgage on it, so there's a lot of paperwork involved with it right now. So that would give the city all the way across Pennsylvania, and if the city wanted to, they could shut Pennsylvania down right there, in the future.
Good idea.
Other questions from the board? Does anyone from the public have a comment to make about either? Okay, yes, Ms. Harris.
Arlene Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue. I've watched that property for years and years, decades, and I've always thought, boy, when that comes available, the city should snap it up.
Thank you for that. Anyone else comment? Okay, is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
There's a motion for approval and a second. Any further discussion?
That's pending appraisal.
Pending the appraisal, yes, sir.
And just so I understand, do you want the contract to come back to the commission, or just as this authorization to proceed with a contract and closing if approved?
Probably needs to come back to the commission. That's what we.
It's up to y'all. So that you can delegate the authority of the city manager to proceed to purchase the property if you can get it for under appraised value or under.
And the appraised value is 144.
That's the asking price.
Oh, that's the asking price.
We have been bouncing all the way around with
Okay.
the numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
The people on it are in California.
I'm going to amend my motion to have it brought back to the city commission for final approval, based upon whatever you negotiate.
Okay, so the motion now is that for you to go forward, but to bring back the the offer before the city commission before you would go forward to purchase it.
And I will have the appraisal as well.
Mayor, if I may, just for information, property appraisers have that property appraised at, for tax purposes, at $107,900. Of course, everybody knows property appraisal is always low, so, but like I said, that's just for information for the board.
Okay, is there a second to the new motion that Commissioner Barnes has made?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any from the public? Mr. White, please call the roll.
Commissioner Barnes? Aye. Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so go forward. Item number 19 is our final item for tonight's agenda. This is public commentary. Any member of the public, any member of the city staff, whoever would like to speak, this is your opportunity. Please keep your comments, if possible, at 3 minutes for the sake of time. Okay, if there are no further comments from anyone, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much for coming and participating tonight.